But it's clear that anybody who plays an instrument like this and has to concentrate on both the keyboard and the control panel will very quickly run out of pairs of hands. The answer came in the next generation of synthesizers, with a computer memory capable of remembering which notes are played on the keyboard. Here, the musician will have both hands free to shape the finished sound of the sequence. Malcolm Clark.
Well, that tune is now recorded, but recorded not on tape, but in a memory system, and has recorded the control voltages that control all synthesizers. Unfortunately, I made a mistake in playing the piece, but we can go back, and this is what I did. I can ask it to stop. That note, unfortunately, is incorrect. Now, by pressing that button, we can hear it's gone. If we play back, there's a hole where it was. So what I'm going to do is going to put it in. Now that's recorded, but the quality of the sound is not at all as I want it, and this is one of the reasons I've put it in the sequencer, so that my hands are now free to concentrate on the sound quality. Because I'm working with the melody in mind as well as the sound quality, I'm going to put another piece of information in to ask the memory to repeat. We can speed it up if we want to. No, it's going very fast now. Working on this sound pattern now, what I want to try and achieve is the sound quality that is described in a science fantasy play, which is about a house which is completely automatic. And I'll just stop the melody for a moment while I'm talking. What happens when the house becomes dirty is not ordinary vacuum cleaners come out, but tiny robot cleaning mice made of rubber and metal, and they have moustaches that they twirl to pick up the crumbs and little bits and pieces. Because the sound of a miniature mouse vacuum cleaner isn't at all like a sine wave that we're hearing at the moment, I'm going to change over to our old friend white noise. And it's going through a filter. Here it is. You can hear the notes, but they're not pitched at all, so I'm going to tighten the filter. Well, that's the sort of whistling sound that I want, but in order to get the idea of a vacuum motor speeding up and slowing down as they do, I want to put another voltage in so that the note changes its pitch as it's sounding. And because this will take time, I'm going to slow the tune down a little bit. I'm going to change the shape of the notes here and introduce this. Now that's more like a vacuum cleaner. It's got the sort of feel about it, but it still doesn't have that whirling moustache sound that I particularly want. I think the best way to achieve that is to vary the loudness of the sound very quickly with another oscillator, and I can do that here. There we are. Now, we go through once again. I'm going to ask it to stop at the end, and I'm going to put a long decay. There's a long decay. That's the sound of the mouse disappearing back into its burrow.
Here, a futuristic sound is about to be created for a door in Doctor Who. First, the original sound in the studio.
Wait here, please.
Instead of scraping along, the door must sound as if it glides. Dick Mills first generates some white noise as part of the new sound he'll dub over the original soundtrack. Having timed the movement of the door, he can now modify the white noise to the precise pitch and quality he requires. And here it is.
Wait here, please.
He's now ready to dub the new sound over the original.
Wait here, please.
Often the workshop composers like Roger Limb first try out their ideas on a conventional piano. The next stage was to experiment on a keyboard synthesizer to select the most appropriate types of sound. Such instruments can not only simulate everything from a harpsichord or violin to a full brass band, but can also create an almost infinite variety of the shapes of sound we saw earlier. Sounds of instruments as yet uninvented. Roger Limb now replayed the piece through earphones. Then at the right moment, without singing, he used his speaking voice to trigger the synthesizer, adding words to the tune of the saxophone.
That's nice, actually. Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah.
With a broad tune, you can actually get it to go somewhere.
To achieve the effect of a chorus, Peter Howell tried out his own voice over the music track.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
So, using his voice, the synthesizer, and a multi-track recorder, the various elements of the piece are built up, layer by layer. One solo performer turning his composition into a complete orchestral work. Thanks to the new music technology, groups like Pink Floyd and Genesis and avant-garde composers like Stockhausen are today creating strange sounds which only a century ago might not even have been recognized as music. Just 11 years ago, one of the most extraordinary recitals ever was staged at the Queen Elizabeth Hall, London.
The next item, Partita for Unattended Computer by Peter Zinoviev, is a true live performance in the sense that no magnetic tape is being used at all. Furthermore, the computer has a choice at various stages in the procedure, and the piece therefore comes out different every time it's played. The performance you're about to hear is therefore unique and unrepeatable. First of all, checks are made to see that the composition is correctly loaded into the computer. When these checks have been carried out, the computer is started and will carry out the performance unattended.
The man behind that recital is one of a new breed of musicians. Peter Zinoviev is both a composer and an electronics whiz-kid. A decade ago, he was already developing the hardware of synthetic music, while at the same time venturing into the uncharted music potential of computers. Using one of his own synthesizers, he plays, records, transmutes and modifies vintage scores as data for his computer.
It's a longer decays.
He now types instructions into the computer about how it should juggle the notes it has remembered and replay them in a semi-random fashion, speeding some up, slowing others down. On a visual display, he can see the original music data prior to being modified by the computer. All seems ready now to hand over to the computer.
Let's transform it.
This is the tiny studio of David Vorhaus, again both inventor and composer. Working at his best in the early hours of the morning, Vorhaus is developing his own approach to music.
Well, this invention I call the Maniac. It's an analog sequencer. That's what the A stands for. The advantage of analog sequencers is that you can actually play the instrument while it's happening and see the music happening in front of you. This way it helps you compose the music, because as you experiment, you come up with new ideas, often better than the original. You can take notes out, put other notes in, or bring in whole new sequences. Because Maniac's multi-phasic means you can split it into 1, 2, 3, or 4 different sequences, and they all play their riffs in counterpoint with each other. You can change the note lengths this way, or in this respect. And you can also change the pitches, because Maniac is automatically tuned digitally, chromatophonic. It's also polyphonic, but unfortunately there's no P in Maniac. If you want to change key, any or all of the sequences will change key at the same time when you hit the slower keyboard. If you just want to improvise with the skip switches, or change the note lengths, but you want a sequence to keep to some particular bar length and you don't want to keep score, switch in the Time Warp Navigator. It does it all for you. You can turn sequences upside down, or back to front, or you can get them to harmonize, add, subtract from each other. Just give you streams of pulses that you can play with.
Vorhaus calls his musical drain pipe with its strings of electrically conductive tape the kaleidophon. Instead of using remote control devices, the kaleidophon is sensitive to touch. The harder you press the strings, the louder and brighter the sound. It gives the direct response of traditional instruments. When you slide your fingers up and down, the notes don't blur into a whine, but come up clear and distinct. It makes it easier to play fast runs in tune. There are switches which give rapid, repeated notes, otherwise very difficult to play by hand. Vorhaus switched on his Maniac sequencer to provide the backing for a live performance on his other invention, the kaleidophon.